Mediterranean meatballs with citrus vegetables. And since the vegetables take longer, I'll start with them. The big four: celery, carrot, onion, and leek. Such great partners in so many dishes, and together often referred to in classic cuisine as mirepoix. The first thing I do is cut the leek into very fine rings. Of course, I've made sure there's no grit in it. Now, the leek rings are gently sautéed in some oil. One, of course, that is low in saturated fat, such as peanut oil, or olive oil, or the Australian macadamia nut oil, which I'm using here. After 5 minutes or so, I add the other vegetables, each chopped into small dice. The onion, the carrot, and the celery. The quantities are not vital here, though I do try to make sure that there's more leek than anything else. After a minute or so of gentle cooking, I add some liquids: the juice of an orange, the grated rind of orange, some stock, about 300 mils, chicken or veal stock, or you could use vegetable stock, but the lighter the color, the better, and a glass of good white wine. Australian, of course. And finally, a small amount of mild mustard, Dijon style. Stir the vegetables up, reduce the heat, and on goes the lid. Now to those meatballs. I use lean lamb. About 500 grams is enough for 6 people. And I either ask the butcher to mince it, in fact to double mince it, or I chop it myself very finely. The advantage of making your own meatballs is, of course, you can control exactly the amount of salt and fat that goes in. And if you start out with the best Australian meat, you'll know you'll finish up with the best Australian meatballs. Once finely chopped, it's into a mixing bowl, and I add some other ingredients. A little finely chopped onion, some seasonings, some oregano, freshly chopped, or you could substitute with a teaspoon of dried, a couple of teaspoons of freshly chopped rosemary, another herb which works really well with lamb. Again, a little powdered rosemary could be substituted. A couple of teaspoons of ground cumin, some white pepper, white or black, but I prefer white, and a final flavoring of a hard cheese, such as Parmesan, just a tablespoon or so. And I bind the mixture together with an egg. A final adjustment for texture with some breadcrumbs. I'm looking for a dough-like consistency, exactly like this. Once the consistency is right, I just shape the balls by hand, then roll them in plain flour, and they'll be ready for cooking. And as with any recipe where you're handling raw meat, it's a good idea to cook the meat as soon as possible. Meatballs may be sautéed like this in a little oil, or they could even be poached or steamed. Back to the vegetables and a little concoction to enhance the sauce. A small amount of lemon juice. I stir in a teaspoon of corn flour. Then add a small amount of the cooking liquor. A little more. And I pour this mixture back in with the vegetables. It'll thicken the mixture, but only a little, which is what I want. A generous sprinkling of parsley, and the vegetables are ready to serve. I like to serve the Mediterranean meatballs with a mountain of mashed potatoes, generous helping of vegetables around the edge, carrots, leeks, onion and celery, followed by those meatballs. And there it is, Mediterranean meatballs with citrus vegetables. And to accompany this perfect partnership, I'd recommend an Australian Chardonnay. Another triumph for consuming passions. Till next time, bon appétit.